How's everybody doing? Everybody doing okay? I'll put my water down here. And so when Harshi said, oh, come talk to us, I said, what do you want me to talk about? Big data, data warehouse? No, we want to talk about you and what you've done. I went, I don't know about that. That's not something I normally do. We don't normally do that, do we? Everybody wants us to talk about the technology. So is Philip here? There he is. Philip and I met Monday, and he asked me some questions and recorded it, of which I have decided I need to change my hair color after seeing it on camera. Just seeing yourself is always different, right? I was trying to find the questions, but I'm sure you can remind me of what they were. But I was asked to introduce myself and talk a little bit about what I do and how I got there. Right, Harshi? And I wanted to thank you for inviting me. Harshi told you I run a team of about 80 people and some contractors, and we're in charge of all of the core system data that's used for informational processing at the bank. So that means I'm not in the middle of opening the bank. He's in the middle of opening the bank. I'm not in the middle of opening the bank at his bank. I'm in the middle of all of the information that people want to look at to make marketing decisions, to make management decisions, to do management reporting, and to do all the regulatory reporting for the bank. So if you're worried about, oh my God, Denise is in charge of the data for me to put my money in my checking account, no. They give me that data. We hold it, we transform it, and we have various technologies that work on it. Anybody here heard of Hadoop? Who knows about Hadoop? So we have a really large Hadoop implementation going on at the bank, and it's actually 3 years old. So Hadoop is big data, and it's the newest keyword in how to do databases with both structured and unstructured data. So it's a big deal going on, what people are doing with newer technologies, how do you attract new people to the bank that want to do things. And it's always fun to be in the midst of a technology change, and it's a big technology change is really what it is. And it's the industry catching up with all the plethora of data that is there today. I was just recently speaking to the Florida Department of Transportation. They had to put a large Hadoop implementation in place because a vehicle produces, just a normal vehicle produces almost a half a terabyte of data every day that's driving down the road. And now they've got these driverless cars. You guys heard about the driverless vehicles? 4 terabytes of data an hour. So, and it's because the car, as it's going down the road, the instruments are not only talking to the car and back to the manufacturer, but the cars are talking to each other. So think about that. Think about what you guys are going to be challenged with, what the next 10 years is going to bring. So it's really a lot of cool stuff going on out there. And at the bank, we're trying to keep pace with all of the different systems that come at us, about all the regulatory demands. There are new regulatory questions every month. And that may sound not that big, but it can take a year to answer a regulatory question. We have to prove the liquidity of the bank. We have to prove that there's enough money in the bank every day that if there was some kind of an economic catastrophe that you could get your money out. And now we have to report that back to the feds every year. And soon we'll actually have every month, and now they're going to want it every day. So it's very interesting. Think about cash flows, and a big account might transfer money and what that might do. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on. People think about data and they think it's boring. It's not. There's a lot going on with data, a lot of technology attached to it. And I've been doing it for a little while. So I started out doing change control work at a trucking company because they would let anybody do any kind of IT work that had any kind of an inclination in the 80s. And I was an admin, and I said, oh, I can go help them. They needed some scripts written in some now defunct language. And I said, oh, I can do that. I can mess with that a little bit. And everybody knows how to do an Excel macro, right? They even had them then, you know. And we decided that we were going to move off of the big mainframe because companies like Oracle came out with this software that you could run in a cheaper environment. So we ported our DB2 to Oracle. So I learned enough about DB2 to be able to move it into Oracle. And it was just a database at the time. And then about 2 years later, they start calling them very large databases, VLDBs, okay? And then everybody was worried about getting the data in. And after I did that for a few years, I kind of took a step back and went, you know, there's not enough people getting the data out. We're putting all this data in, and there's 3 guys getting it out, and I got to tune their SQL to make it happen. So I had a DBA job, did that for a while. And what happened at the bank was I ended up with that job by accident. The DBA was a woman, and I was doing change control, and she needed some help with her backup scripts. And I said, oh, I can write some Perl and do a few little things. And I said, I could do that for you. And she and her assistant went to Oracle Open World. And there was an earthquake in San Francisco. And I don't know if anybody remembers back in '89, but it cut off telephone communications for almost 2 full days. Think of where we're coming. That would never happen today, right? But we didn't have all the towers and all the things so those landlines went down. People couldn't get through. And we were in a disaster recovery situation, and we couldn't get a hold of our DBAs. So there was me, me and a systems guy sitting there trying to figure out how to make this database roll back, and then the rollback checkpoint didn't work, and had to call Oracle and talk to them on the phone. And believe me, I didn't do anything earth-shattering, but listen to people and run a few commands, and we got up and going again. And that was my taste of entry-level database work, doing a whole database recovery. So after that, they decided maybe she didn't need to be doing change control anymore, and Dottie needed some help, and I became a DBA. I don't think I got the title for about 3 years, but it's what I did. And I've been doing it ever since then. And data is very important. And sometimes you have to be open to an opportunity to get to the next place that you're going to go, and you may not even know that what you're volunteering to do is going to get you there, right? So if I had a piece of advice for anyone, it would be look for the opportunities that are there in front of you, and don't think that anything is beneath doing. Don't think that there's anything that you can't do, because there's a lot of resources available to help you do it today. And I used to call myself a jack of all trades and a master of none. That's what a DBA is, right? Anybody do DBA work or know DBAs? You know, hi, how are you? You know how hard it is. You know how few women there are doing it. And that's changing. I just finished working over at Samford. We had a 100 Girls of Code event. We had, saw you there, different shirt on. And she and I both rushed over here for that. So we had about 50 girls from the ages of 8 to 17. And it's really neat to see the interest and to see people that are pushing it. I was over at McWayne did anybody know about Kids Codes Club? That's boys and girls. So if you know of any kids, there's once a month on a Sunday, we do a Kids Code Club over there. A lot of interest. You ever been to that? It's pretty cool, Kids Code Club. And you don't have to be a McWayne member to attend. And we're teaching a little bit of technology here and there to the youth of the area. And we're trying to do more reaching out, because there are jobs here. There was a statistic, only 3% of girls are going to go into IT related fields. That's not STEM, that's a channel through STEM. That's too few. We have a lot more jobs there than that, and they're well-paying jobs, and they give you opportunity. And one thing I really liked about being a DBA was it gave me a lot of flexibility, because you had to work some really weird hours. You work odd hours? So it's not, yeah, you know, back then, if you were going to do any kind of recovery or a copy or a backup, it was in the middle of the night, you know, and I was a young mom, and it got to the point where the two guys that I work with, if they got a call in the middle of the night because batch blew up, they would say, I think I had a beer too many. Go call Denise, you know, go call Denise. And I'd pick up the phone. I could wake up because I could go back to sleep again pretty easy. And I ended up staying at DBA for almost a dozen years because of the flexibility it offered me, the hours that it offered me. I could get off at 4:30, go home, cook dinner, do stuff, take the kids to scouts, do whatever it was, and then be back on the system after I went to bed at 9 o'clock, you know. So technology gives you opportunities for schedules that perhaps other jobs don't. It's that simple. That's my big thing about being a young person trying to look for a new field. I think there's a lot of opportunity just in the technology area itself. And data, have you guys heard about master data management? Anybody, Dale, you teach them about any of that master data management stuff? Metadata management. There are data management principles and practices out there today that weren't there 5 years ago. 5 years ago, you barely heard of anybody having a chief data officer. Well, we just named one at the bank in August. Everybody's getting a CDO. It's because there is pressure from our governmental oversight agencies on being able to prove that the data that's going into the report is the right data, it's accurate and timely and all kinds of things like that. And it's taking an office with an officer in it to attest to all that. And they need different technologies done too. So it's sort of like anybody remember long division? I know the young man back there doesn't remember long division. But remember, you know, I remember being in Catholic school, and I would like know the answer, you know, and I could go a couple decimal places and I would know the answer, but I was really bad at writing the proof of it. And you flunked, right? You flunked if you had the right answer and you didn't have the proof. And show your work. And that's what data lineage is all about. And that's what the regulators are saying. It doesn't matter that you gave us an answer. Well, the 90% of the work is proving that you gave them the right answer. And it used to be, and frankly, we still do, a lot of work in Visio and other work stream, even Word, to talk about how a data element had a business rule applied to it, got combined with something else, got divided by 2, and is sitting on a report. Well, they don't want that Visio document because it has somebody's hands in it, right? That means somebody could have done something, either made a mistake or been unethical. And everybody's always worried about that. So now there's tools today that if you're going to use Informatica or DataStage or Ab Initio or whatever, DataFlux, whatever ETL tool of the choice you have, those vendors have had to put software in place that as you're using the tool, it shows the evidence of what you've done. And now you can present that, because that is auto-generated. But it didn't happen by itself, right? You had to code a certain way. You had to make sure that you knew the right way to use the tool. And these are challenges that are in front of, keep you on your toes and keep you in front of what you're doing on a daily basis. So at the bank, I'm sure you're going through a lot of the same things at your bank. How many other people have to do any kind of regulatory reporting at their companies? Manufacturing companies have to do it all the time, right? Six Sigma projects to prove what the quality of what you produced is. Otherwise, you're not going to make enough profit off of it. So there's technology and technology pieces that are about data that aren't about a widget, but about the information that went into building the widget. And having people that can manage that data, it's a challenge for companies to find them. And I think that's one of the best places to set your career on today. And obviously I'm a little bigoted because I've been doing it my whole career, but there's more opportunity now. It used to be that there were just a couple people in a corner doing that, and now suddenly it has the attention of the entire organization, and everybody wants to know how these things can be done. And then the flip side of all that is once you have that data, you have to be able to put it in a presentational format that everybody can consume it and understand what it says. And that's what BI is all about, right? Business intelligence, analytics, dashboarding. Think of all the tools that are out there. That's a whole, there's a side of this about storing the data and tracking the data, and then there's a side about using the data. And it's a very exciting space to be honest with you. There's actually, at our bank, we are the largest SaaS installation in Alabama. We have over 500 SaaS users, so we do our own SaaS user group. When I got there, I thought we had about 20 or 30 SaaS users. And does anybody know what SaaS is? Yeah, so SaaS is a suite of software that can be used for analytical purposes. And it goes everything from having some ad hoc capabilities to building models that do predictions, predicting customer behavior, predicting what the return on investment for the bank is going to be in the future. So most companies have SaaS. I haven't. It doesn't stand for anything. I wish I could tell you it did. It's SAS, not SaaS, not software as a service, SAS, and it's a single owner company, global organization, and we could talk about SaaS. I actually have a whole SaaS speech, so you don't want to hear that one today. It's a pretty cool place to work. So that's the space that I live in. That's the space that I work in. And when I think about it, and I feel like I got there accidentally and very fortunately, but I also know that I listened to the opportunities that were in front of me, because you know what, when they needed somebody to help with the database recovery, I had a kid that had to go to the hospital that day because he had a bunch of little hives on his feet, and I had never heard of hand, foot, and mouth disease. Anybody heard of that? My kid came down with hand, foot, and mouth. And I could have said, I'm sorry, I can't do anything like that. Instead, I said, I will be there as soon as possible. And someone came to the hospital with a cell phone. They were a little bigger than this at the time. And had me talking to Oracle while I was waiting for the doctor to come into the emergency room, right? So think of the situations that you're in. And I could have said, hey, no, I'm not going to be able to help you until tomorrow. But tomorrow was going to be too late for that company, right? They needed it today. So look at those little opportunities that might be there or not, and decide which ones are right for you to pursue. I think that's how you move in an organization. And I've also not been afraid to move laterally or even down. In order to get into doing data management work, I was running a DBA team, and they were having a problem at the data company with some web applications that they had. And the data company was providing data as a service to the automotive industry, and the web application side wasn't able to get the data it needed, and it kept timing out. And frankly, it was a database problem, but it was also a network problem, network bandwidth issue. No one could find it. And they came up to me and said, well, you know what, you've been doing this for a while. Why don't you come over here and run our web app team? And I go, oh my God, I don't know what a graphic artist is or does. You know, I don't know what the pixels on the page are about. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And, so I worked there for a year, and frankly, we spent a lot of time dealing with the database and the network. And a year later, I had met graphic artists, hired graphic artists, talked to some really, it was, Jeff, what's that? It was C++, C#. It was one of those technologies back then. Yeah, well, it was, you know, so it was a whole new technology world, and it was really a lot of fun, and to meet those people and work with them and gain an understanding of something that I never had. And then because I had some database and I had a little bit of this web, they came and said, we're going to start a data management team. And this was like 10 years ago. So that was, you know, they weren't talking about that, but they were a global automotive data company. And do you know what a VIN is? Vehicle identification number, 17 digits. Well, we were running out of VINs because Korea had 3 new manufacturers, and they were China was coming up with manufacturing, and there weren't enough subsets of the VINs to give out to these new companies. And the industry was going, oh, we're gonna have to go to 18 digits. Well, an 18-digit VIN meant retooling the assembly lines. It meant stamping machines that had to be redone. it was crazy, crazy. So I had the opportunity to go to Washington and work for, I was supposed to be there for 2 months, and we ended up getting out of there in 10 days because we decided that, you know what, 17 digits are just fine if you go alphanumeric in some of the fields. So think of it, somebody hadn't even a thought. They're not thinking about the data, they're just thinking about what a solution that's more commonly done and could be done. So we went alphanumeric in some of the VIN fields, and they're going to be able to use a 17-digit VIN for 100 years. And that was a data problem. It really was. It was an analytical problem. And sometimes in IT, what we're really, really good at is the technology, but maybe not as good at the analysis and the business application of what the technology needs to do. And those are very important jobs too. Being able to interpret for a business what they can get from technology, which isn't usually done because it's usually the business trying to tell technology what they want done. And we're trying to flip this a little bit more and be more cooperative. And data management is a practice that will help with that. You have to have data definitions. You have to go talk to people in the business about what do they think a data element is. How does treasury management define return on investment versus the operational areas for loans and deposits or lockbox? Those are all different metrics and different things that they measure. But everybody talks about return on investment like it's one thing, and it's not. So being able to understand that helps the people that put the regulatory reports together, helps people to be able to talk to each other. Those are all areas where there's technical jobs. And so that's kind of the background on what I do. Sorry to be so long about it. Dale, I graduated in 2011 from here, 2011. And I can't believe that it's 16 right now, and you're the 2017 graduating class, is that correct? How exciting is that? You are more than halfway through? Aren't you excited? Huh? You gotta be pretty happy at this point. And I remember when I was sitting here, and I remember how I joined. I was working at BBVA Compass, and was Ray Schaefer, had gone through the program. And I had worked for Ray in Michigan like 10 years before I came to BBVA. And he said, you know, I think you should go do this. And I had just gotten here. I came from Detroit. I didn't know a lot of people. And my sons decided that they needed to enlist. And I was scared as hell almost every day worrying about them. And Ray said, you know what? You're only spending 75 hours at work a week. You need something else to keep your mind off of what's going on. Why don't you go join the IAM program? And then the next year I did. Actually went and heard Dale talk at some library and even Panera Bread, I think. You've been everywhere. And I thought, this is really interesting. Not only will I get to get a degree, but I'll get to meet people and learn something new at a decent price point. And it was. I got into the program and met a lot of people, met the instructors, and Jennifer Skellum and Don Appleby made a big impression on me, as well as a couple other people that aren't in the program today, but have their own businesses and are being very successful. And I started learning about things that I hadn't thought about, like that whole entrepreneurial thing. It doesn't run through my blood. It really doesn't. I'm just so cautious. And I'm used to being a sole provider of a family. My husband's disabled. And I'm like, that's not for me. What do I want to do that for? And then I started realizing that Dale is right. You are a company of one. You run your own company every day that you walk into work. You prove yourself every single day. And that was a really, frankly, refreshing viewpoint for me. Because how many people kind of like coast? You know, you go in and you're kind of coasting, and that's not fun. It's not fun to coast. Everybody knows that, you know. And it gave me some renewed vigor of dealing with the project I was on, and between the people and the classes I met, some of the speakers that were brought in are people that I still talk to today and I see today. And so that networking piece, I think is very important. I hope you're all taking advantage of that between between yourselves, and showing up at alumni events, and really taking advantage of who you meet, because you are your network. You are. Your network's going to give you your next opportunity, not the yellow pages, not the want ads. You can look up as many company names on the Google, and well, it's white pages now, isn't it? There's not even a yellow page anymore. I don't know. But it's about who you know. And you're going to run into people that, be polite to everybody. You need to shake everybody's hand and look everybody in the eye. But remember those people that make an impression on you, and don't hesitate to contact them again, to get a hold of them, or go up to them at another event when you see them and say, hey, remember me from IEM, because I think that's really important. I frankly have hired a lot of people that I met in this program, and work with a lot of people that I've met in this program, even though I moved to a different bank. And so never underestimate what sitting next to somebody can do for you. And it may not be tomorrow, it might be 10 years from now. And that could be anywhere. It could be in church, right? Take advantage of where you meet people, and how you can take advantage of knowing others. And I mean that in a very friendly way. I really do, because it has to come from your heart, or it's fake, right? You have to have an interest in people. But people are going to remember your name or your face, and we didn't know each other. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. But she and I were both rushing to try to get here. Where did you park, by the way? You got here before me. So there's always something to get out of whatever opportunities in front of you. And sometimes something that doesn't look like an opportunity is an opportunity. And we shouldn't forget that. So is there anything anybody wants to hear from me? Yes, sir.
Just want to echo on your point of networking. I want to reintroduce myself. I was senior working on your project, UAMIS data lineage project. So I just thought it was such a small word.
It's nice to see you. I recognized you when I walked in the door. We'll have to say hello after the event. And
your current position at Regions, did you go through this program? You were at
yeah, I had an opportunity to come up. I am an implementer. I'm not a maintainer. I don't do that. I don't run a system that's been, I make change. So BBVA brought me there to make change, and we had a very challenging project that we went through where we made a lot of change, and it was coming to an end and needed to be maintained. So frankly, I was going to move back to Detroit, either that or work in New York. And then the opportunity at Regions came up because I happened to have met one of the CIOs there like 4 years before over lunch at what's that Indian restaurant? Silver Coin. And he asked, somebody said to him, he said, I really need somebody that can run a data warehouse. And somebody that he was talking to said, do you remember that woman that you met 4 years ago? That's what she does. And he said, well, why don't we get her back in here to talk to us? So it wasn't like, I kept calling this guy for the 4 years. It just, you never know what impression that you might make on someone where an opportunity could come up. So there was that, and also the fact that my husband said, I'm not moving. I'm not spending another winter shoveling the car out of the snow. When we first got here, I was here a whole year before he moved down. We had to sell our house. We had a kid that had to finish the year in college that he was in, and he was still living at home. And he was down here in September, and it was Christmas Eve, and he was sitting on the deck, and it was a beautiful day when the sun was out, and he had shorts on. And he said to our boy, take my picture and send it to Grandma, because tell her this is why I'm not moving back to Michigan. And then I found out he really meant it. He really likes it here. We like the area. We like the people. It reminds me of Detroit a lot with better weather. I figure in Detroit, I can't go out in January and February because the snow is so cold, you don't even want to ski. And I mean that by the snow is so cold. If you fall on it, it's like ice, and it's no fun to ski on that. Well, here in August, we don't go out of the house because it's too hot. So what's the difference? I'd rather be too hot, I think, than too cold sometimes. As a matter of fact, I really realized that I have adjusted when my air conditioning sits at about 77 degrees. And people come to my house from Michigan and say, it's hot in here. And I go, no, it's perfect. It's nice. Because the first 5 years I was here, the air conditioning was, I think, on 69 and 70. Can't afford that either. So what else am I supposed to be talking about, Philip?
Well, more of an observation, just listening to you talk. It sounds like your objective in your career has been to serve whatever capacity that is, and that service, a servant's heart, if you will, has opened the doors for you and the opportunities.
I think that's very well said. I do believe in the servant manager mentality. I think that works well. I feel like I work with my peers, and I don't like hierarchical relationships, frankly, because they don't work. You have to have hierarchies, but we're all here doing a job, and we all need to work together to get it done, and whatever it takes. I believe in giving back. I've done a lot of work at both banks that I've worked for here, liaisoning with universities, getting internship programs in place, hiring interns. I guess we have someone that can talk about that. And making sure that we're doing the right thing for the people in our community too. I think that's very important. You know, look to yourself first before you start looking outside. And we have a lot that we can do. I have the privilege at working at with Judy Keir at the MIS program at Hoover, but JF Carter just started a program, so we've been over there working with them in Fairfield, I think that is. So everybody wants a program. We can do a lot for our kids, but we need people to help with it, and we need companies to help with it too. So that's the other thing. Both BBVA and Regions do a lot of work with the community, and I'm proud of that. I'm the liaison to the University of Alabama, their MIS program, and it's refreshing to see how interested these young people are in wanting to do something that's meaningful, right? On the other side, it's very interesting to see how they all want to be managers. And I wanted to be technicians for a while, you know? I want them to really know what it means to put your hands into some code and to understand all the pieces of a puzzle, because as an engineer, you know that there's multiple pieces to make something work, not just one. You know, there's still a lot of SQL and PL SQL out there. We're using a lot of Hadoop type of technologies like JRecord and Impala, which is a query tool. But I hire a lot of Java programmers and then teach them the other tools. That's what we do. And frankly, we're seeing a lot of people coming off of web development work, kind of burn out a little bit with that, wanting to get into another area and learn another area. And so anybody that can do any type of you know, Java, Python kind of work can learn something else. You know, C++ people, COBOL people can do it, but we need the COBOL people so badly still that no one will let them go. Because the concept of a COBOL copybook, we have the copybook is the defining, it's like the data definition, right? So that works well. And then they understand data lineage and understand, a lot of the COBOL programmers really know the data really well. So they work well in that space, but we can't get them because of the shortage of COBOL programmers. So there'll be another language tomorrow, by the way. Yeah, you always have to be able to learn something new. If you like to learn, that's a great space to be in. Dale should write a book about that. Does anybody have any questions? Anything that I could answer?
I guess circle back to our interview. The final question I was, what were you looking for in IEM, and did it deliver?
Okay. What I was looking for a bit of an escape I needed my mind to be busy. But I could have done it in a lot of different ways, right? I could have volunteered more at church. I could have done a lot of different things. I thought that learning something was important, and being with people that were coming at this from a different aspect of the normal program. So I liked the idea that you are an entrepreneur, even if you work somewhere else, and you could change and be something else if that's what you want to be. And that really attracted me to the program. And then all the people that I met, that's exciting. It's exciting, and really, I'm going to say it again, take advantage of that. That's an opportunity. Jennifer Skellum was an instructor, and she wasn't the most popular instructor either, by the way. She was tough. And she did this one data requirements class that wasn't real well received, but it was very real world and very applicable to definitely to what I do. And that we ended up having a lot of conversations, and even after I graduated, we would meet for coffee and talk. And next thing I know, I had someone approach me to be on the board at Tech Birmingham, and I didn't do it for a couple years. And Tanvir, who was another person, is Tanvir speaking here? That I met. She was a speaker, Tanvir Patel. And I ended up going on the board. And then Jennifer was a board member. And then the next thing I know, Jennifer was the president of Tech Birmingham. And then this year she said, I need some help because we're doing a 501c3 Tech Alabama. Anybody know that we're doing we have a Tech Alabama program now. And she said, I need somebody to help me out with Tech Birmingham. And I volunteered. And so I'm just running the board meetings for her this year. That wouldn't happen to me if I hadn't been in this program. I met people that I'm friends with today in this program. Now that maybe you don't need that, but I needed that because I didn't know anybody, when I first moved down here. And I don't have kids in school anymore. That's where you meet all your good friends, right? When your kids are in school and you keep in touch, and when you get older and you move and you relocate, you have to have other opportunities to meet people. And it was really, it felt good to get the degree, to be honest with you. Aren't you guys feeling good thinking about you're going to have that piece of paper? Is it a piece of paper anymore, or is it just electronic certificate? I don't know what it is, but it doesn't matter because you did it. It's an accomplishment, and the accomplishment felt good too, Philip. So I'm very grateful that I've been in this program. I talk about it to other people. I've recommended several people to come here. I'm glad to see Harshi here. And there's other people that graduated before you that I've encouraged to be in the program. I think it's very worthwhile. Is that it? I hope I haven't bored you guys too much. And all right, you're welcome.